Hi everyone, glad to see you again. Welcome back to my channel Cyber Network. Today, we're diving deep into the world of cybersecurity with the OWASP Top 10 for 2024. If you're building applications, whether it's a website, a mobile app, or anything in between, you need to know about these common security risks. We're going to break down each one, show you exactly how they work, and most importantly, how you can protect yourself. And trust me, you don't want to be the next headline. All right, first up on our hit list is injection flaws, and the most common type you'll hear about is SQL injection. Imagine you've got a website with a login form, right? You've got a username field and a password field. Now, a hacker might try to mess with that form by injecting malicious code into those fields, instead of just typing in their username and password. When you've got an SQL injection vulnerability, it's like leaving that filing cabinet unlocked and letting anyone slip in a fake key. They can potentially bypass authentication, gain access to your entire database, steal sensitive information, or even worse, delete everything. Hackers can use automated tools to scan for vulnerabilities, and they can even hide their tracks pretty well. But don't worry, we'll get into some ways to defend against this later in the video. Understanding how these attacks work is the first step to preventing them. Next up is broken authentication. Basically, anything that messes with how users log in and out of your application. This could be weak passwords, flaws in your password reset process, or even problems with how you store session IDs. Think of a time when you forgot your password for a website. You probably clicked that forgot password link, right? Now imagine a hacker could intercept that reset link, or even manipulate the system to generate a new one for your account. Or let's say you're logged into a website on a public computer and you forget to log out. If the website isn't handling session IDs properly, someone else could potentially use your still active session to access your account. These vulnerabilities can be exploited to impersonate users, steal their data, and wreak all sorts of havoc. A lot of times, broken authentication is the culprit. Let's talk about sensitive data exposure. This one's pretty straightforward. It's all about protecting the information you don't want anyone else to see. Think credit card numbers, social security numbers, passwords, basically anything that could be used for identity theft or fraud. Now you might think, okay, I'll just make sure I have a strong password policy and call it a day, but it goes way deeper than that. We're talking about encrypting data, both in transit and at rest. Imagine sending a postcard with your credit card information written on it. That's essentially what it's like sending sensitive data over the internet without encryption. Encryption is like putting that postcard in a secure envelope, so only the intended recipient can open it. Data breaches are becoming increasingly common, and exposing sensitive data can have devastating consequences for both individuals and businesses. All right, let's get a little more technical with this next one, XML external entities, or XXE for short. Now, XML might sound intimidating, but stick with me here. It's basically a way to structure data, kind of like a more organized cousin of HTML. An XXE attack exploits vulnerabilities in how that application passes or reads that XML data. Hackers can insert malicious code into the XML structure, tricking the application into revealing sensitive information, like files on the server or even internal network details. It's kind of like sneaking a hidden message past a security checkpoint. One common example is exploiting a vulnerable XML parser to read sensitive files on the server. For instance, a hacker might try to access the configuration files of a web server, potentially revealing database credentials or other sensitive information. XXE attacks might seem a bit abstract, but they can have serious consequences. Let's talk about broken access control. This one's all about making sure the right users have access to the right information and resources. Think of it like the bouncer at a club. You want to make sure they're only letting in people who are supposed to be there. It could be something as simple as a user being able to access another user's profile information just by changing the URL, or it could be something more serious, like an attacker gaining access to administrative controls because of a misconfigured permission setting. These vulnerabilities can be exploited to view sensitive data, modify user privileges, or even take control of entire systems. One common example is insecure direct object references, where sensitive data is exposed because the application doesn't properly check if the user has the right to access it. Security misconfiguration. It's all about those seemingly small details that can have a huge impact on your application's security. Think of it like leaving a window unlocked in your house. It might seem like a small oversight, but it creates a huge vulnerability that anyone can exploit. This could be anything from using default passwords and settings to not properly configuring your web server or cloud storage. One common example is leaving directory listing enabled on a web server. This means anyone can see a list of all the files and folders stored in that directory, potentially exposing sensitive information like log files or backup files. Another common misconfiguration is not keeping software up to date. Software updates often include security patches that fix known vulnerabilities. By not updating, you're essentially leaving the door wide open for attackers to exploit those vulnerabilities. Let's talk about cross-site scripting, or XSS, a vulnerability that lets attackers inject malicious code into websites. Imagine you're visiting a website, maybe even one you use all the time, and you unknowingly download a piece of malicious code along with it. Here's how it works. An attacker finds a way to inject malicious code, usually JavaScript, into a website that's otherwise trusted. When you visit that website, your browser doesn't know that the code is malicious, so it executes it just like any other script. Now, this malicious code can do all sorts of nasty things like stealing your cookies, those little files that store your login information, redirecting you to malicious websites, or even taking control of your account on that website. One common example is a comment section on a blog or forum. If the website doesn't properly sanitize user input, an attacker could insert JavaScript code into their comment. When other users view that comment, the malicious code is executed in their browsers. Insecure deserialization. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's a critical vulnerability to understand. Essentially, it's all about how applications handle data when it's sent over a network. Imagine you're sending a package in the mail. You carefully pack it up, seal it tight, and slap a shipping label on it. That's kind of like serialization, taking data and putting it into a format that can be transmitted. Deserialization is like receiving that package and unpacking it. Now imagine if someone tampered with that package during transit and replaced the contents with something dangerous. Attackers exploit vulnerabilities in how applications unpack data, potentially executing malicious code or gaining control of the system. Insecure deserialization is often overlooked, but it can have serious consequences, leading to remote code execution, denial of service attacks, and data breaches. Let's talk about using components with known vulnerabilities. This one's all about the dangers of using outdated or vulnerable software components in your applications. Think of it like building a house with materials that have already been recalled for safety issues. You might think you're saving time and effort by using pre-built components, but if those components are vulnerable, you're essentially introducing security flaws into your own application. This isn't just limited to open source software either. Even commercial off-the-shelf software can have vulnerabilities. The key is to stay informed about known vulnerabilities and update your components regularly. One common example is using an outdated version of a content management system like WordPress. If you're not keeping your CMS and its plugins updated, you're leaving yourself open to attacks that exploit known vulnerabilities. Last but not least, we have insufficient logging and monitoring, the silent killer of cybersecurity. Imagine you're a detective investigating a crime scene, but there's no security footage, no fingerprints, and no witnesses. That's what it's like trying to respond to a security incident without proper logging and monitoring. Logging is like having a security camera recording everything that happens in your application. It helps you track user activity, identify suspicious behavior, and understand the scope of a security incident. Monitoring takes things a step further by actively analyzing those logs in real time, alerting you to potential threats as they happen. Without proper logging and monitoring, you're essentially flying blind. You might not even realize you've been breached until it's too late. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. So there you have it, the OWASP Top 10 for 2024. Remember, building secure applications is an ongoing process. Stay informed about the latest threats, keep your software updated, and don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. The more you know about these vulnerabilities, the better equipped you'll be to protect yourself and your users. And hit the bell icon for more in-depth tech content. Thanks for watching and learning with us. Drop a comment below if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. We value your feedback. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tech insights. Stay safe online, cyber network.